Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to have you here for our LUDIA webinar. I'm going to let everybody get settled in here. I believe Lori's going to put the home-based document into the chat. I just want to make sure that everyone knows we are going to be recording this webinar. So if you would prefer, I would say it doesn't usually include your picture at all, but so you know, it's mostly going to record the screen itself, but we want to be able to share this recording with those who are not able to attend today. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. We're going to get started here in just a minute. I do want to let you know we are recording this session in order to be able to pass it along to anyone who isn't able to be here today. Home-based document is located in the chat to find access to our slide deck, as well as some resources that we're going to discuss during the webinar. All right. We'll go ahead and get started. I'm so excited to see everybody here. We're calling this our very first international webinar. So we're very, very excited about this and so excited to be able to share LUDIA with the world. It's such a fantastic tool. So your QR code on the screen here will take you to the home-based document where we have access to slides and then all sorts of resources that we're going to be presenting today. The tiny URL will go to that same place as well. My name is Emily Desjardins, and I am the UDL Content Lead Specialist with Open Access. With me, I have Lori and Leah, who are the coordinators on the project. And then we also have three very, very special guests who I'm so excited to announce and introduce. Beth Stark, Jeremy Rostan, and also Lisa Blake. So I'm going to take a minute just to introduce all three of them. Lisa is a middle school teacher, English teacher, and history teacher at Olympus Junior High here in Placer County. Has jumped right into UDL implementation this year. I would say she's actually been implementing UDL for years, whether she knew it or not. I will say my first time in her classroom, I sat there for about an hour, and a couple minutes in, I just pulled my UDL guidelines out and started making checks of considerations that I saw. And I think I got to 10 in the first hour. So she's doing some amazing work in her classroom, and now she's kind of implementing it with the lens of UDL, even though she's always been doing fabulous, fabulous things. She is going to share a little bit about how she uses LUDIA to implement UDL in her classroom and a specific project that she's working on. Beth Stark and Jeremy Rostan are the amazing creators of LUDIA. Beth has been working in education for about 20 years, and right now she works as an educational consultant supporting international schools. She has 20 plus years fostering access for all students in education. Her background is extensive and ranges from teaching students with visual impairments to working as an international baccalaureate learning support coordinator, and now again working as that international school consultant supporting UDL implementation. Jeremy has also been in education for about the last 20 years, and he has lots of experience within international education, supporting international baccalaureate programs, and now working as a curriculum and instruction coordinator for the International School of Panama. He has spent the last couple of years focusing on really exploring, creating, and integrating AI into educational platforms in order to support teachers. He is a fellow with EdSafe AI, which works on creating safe, accountable, fair, and equitable use in education. He is creating some really unique tools that focus on empowering educators to empower their learners. We are so very grateful to have all three of them here with us today. Thank you guys so much for being here. I will say this is our very first international webinar. We are presenting live now from California, Germany, and Panama. Lisa, Beth, or Jeremy, is there anything you guys would like to add to anything that I have said about you? Okay. Well, thank you for being here. Before we dive in, we just want to make sure that everyone can easily access the presentation and all of the materials that we're sharing today. At Open Access, we are really dedicated to these principles of UDL, the Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, and we really want to make sure that everyone can access everything that we provide. Today,
Emily,
yes.
We have some people in the waiting room that I can't let them in.
Oh boy, I'm so sorry. Yep.
Can you support that? Thank you so much. I apologize for the interruption.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Welcome to everyone just joining us. Thank you so much for being here. I'm gonna go back just a slide real quick to let people know. Oh, it's actually listed there. The tiny URL and QR code will get you into our home base document where you can access all of the materials and slide deck. And we are recording this for anybody who can't be here today. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. So today, some of our accessibility strategies that we're using are really kind of creating those high contrast texts on all of our slide decks with some simple backgrounds. We have our QR code and our tiny URL for access. We include alt text descriptions for images, and we really encourage your participation and feedback. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat, and if there's anything we can't quite get to today, we will absolutely follow up on that home base document. We want to take a couple of minutes to share about the Open Access project. Open Access is one of the education resource leads within the statewide system of support. We are grounded in the foundational belief that with access to quality instruction, all students can engage, actively participate, and learn within inclusive settings. What makes our project unique is that we really highlight the importance of universal design for learning, assistive technology, and augmentative and alternative communication. Our website is located on our home base document. Please feel free to explore some of those free resources. And they're really designed to support implementation of UDL, AT. Our ultimate goal is really to establish showcase sites across the state to highlight these inclusive practices in action. We currently are collaborating with 4 districts to create UDL showcase sites, and we have 1 district who's developing an accessibility showcase site focused on AAC. Hopefully, many, many more to come. We really like to start every webinar, professional development, everything with a nice inclusive welcome. This is not a practice that we created, but it is part of the CASTLE Collaborative for Social Emotional Learning signature playbook. And so today our question is, number 1, who are you? What's your role? Please introduce yourself. And then second of all, what's your current knowledge of LUDIA right now? We have 5 choices for you, so you're welcome to just use a number if you don't want to get specific. But if you do want to share a story about LUDIA, please feel free to do that in the chat as well. We want to hear your stories. The options that we have for you are, 1, LUDIA. I've never heard of LUDIA. This is my first time, but tell me more. Maybe you're curious but clueless. You've heard the name but don't really know what it does. Maybe you've dabbled a bit. Maybe LUDIA and I are just getting to know each other, or perhaps LUDIA is your classroom co-pilot, or maybe something in between. Paulina says it's a 2 for her. All right, well, we're so excited that you're here. Curious is fantastic. Awesome. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for your responses, guys. There's someone joining us from Mexico. Wow, this is so exciting. Thank you. Talk about international. I'll take it. I love it. Lots of 3s and 2s. Oh, Fred is a 5. I love it. Julie is also a 5 from the UK. How exciting is this, guys? Thank you. Some 2s, 5s, 1. We're all over the place here. Also in Mexico. Oh, love this. Well, whether this is something that is new for you or something that you have lots of experience with, we're so excited you're here and excited to share all of these fabulous resources. So, without further ado, the reason we are here today, I would like to introduce LUDIA, your AI-powered thought partner, and of course, the founders of LUDIA, Ms. Beth Stark and Mr. Jeremy Rostan. Welcome to you both, and thank you again so much for being here.
It's such an honor to be with everyone today, and thank you so much to everyone at the Open Access Project for giving us this opportunity to share. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
So today we have 3 primary learning objectives for the day. We are really going to look at defining LUDIA and explain its purpose in supporting inclusive education, identify those key factors, admitting people in, identify those key features and benefits of LUDIA for educators and learners. And then we're going to demonstrate to you how to effectively implement LUDIA in a variety of educational settings. By the end of our session today, we really hope that you will be able to take the information you've learned and be able to leverage LUDIA to help create efficiency in your UDL planning. So to start us off, Lisa and I are going to have a little conversation about how she's utilizing LUDIA in her classroom. So I'm so very excited to have Lisa here with us. I would like to note that she is actually on her prep period right now. We all know how absolutely precious a prep period is. So thank you very much for being here with us.
Thanks for having me, Emily.
Yay! She's not able to stay the entire session, so you might see her fade into the background as her prep period ends. But if you have any questions for her about anything that she's doing in her classroom, please feel free to ask those questions. I will absolutely get you answers to those with her when she is not able to be with us. So, okay, I started working with the 7th grade team at Olympus this last fall, and as a team, this 7th grade English team really identified that what they were seeing is sort of an apathy with their 7th graders that they hadn't experienced with any other class of students. And so they kind of wanted to center their problem of practice around how can we help engage these learners that appear to be very apathetic. And so as the team dug down, one of the things that really connected for Lisa and a couple of others is the new consideration to nurture joy and play. So we dug into that consideration and looked at how do our learners experience joy? And immediately Lisa connected with this idea of building a connection between student identity and the reading, the protagonists that our students are reading about in their literature. And so that kind of sparked something in her where she was like, oh my gosh, there's this thing I've always wanted to do. Lisa, will you tell us a little bit about sort of what it is you've always wanted to do and just kind of a little background?
Yeah, thanks, Emily. Literature circles have been around forever and ever and ever. Their most modern iteration is something like they call them book clubs, right? But we understand and have understood for quite some time that to make a lifelong learner, to truly engage children in text, which is not a thing in today's kids. It is all about getting the right book in the hands of the right kid at the right moment, right? Penny Kittle tells us this. And so I've been, I say threatening to do literature circles for a while, right? To kind of set up this opportunity for my kids to really have a selection to choose from that they can see themselves, this concept of windows and mirrors, right? To expand their perspectives, to be able to see themselves in literature. And so that's why when you combine that with a need to really push engagement, literature circles, book clubs is really and truly kind of the part that's kind of grabbed me as a way to fully connect my kids to each other, to themselves, and kind of to our classroom, right?
So I'm going to open up our document that's shared here, and then maybe Lisa, I'll ask you a couple questions to kind of guide us through this process, if that's okay. So this is the document we shared with everybody. You are welcome to use this. Please, if this is something you want to explore, you want to do something similar in your class, easy tweaks with LUDIA could really provide that for you. So everything that LUDIA created and helped us create was Lisa's idea. I'm going to start with that, right? She had the ideas behind all of this. So I guess, Lisa, can you tell us a little bit about how did LUDIA support this dream of yours to create literature circles, book club, whatever we want to call it?
So with so many great, I'm going to say great ideas. That sounds arrogant, but I don't mean it to, right? With so many great ideas in education, it is, there is just so much, right? You're in the midst of doing the thing. You're teaching kids, you're dragging them along, you're pulling them along, you're pushing them along. It depends on the day. And this idea has been percolating for such a long time, but actually executing it is so overwhelming because there's just so many parts, right? Right now, I kind of call this a golden era of young adult fiction. There's so much great literature out there. So just that first step of how do I pick? How do I narrow down this incredible, rich soup of choices down to something that is manageable for my students. And LUDIA helped me with that right out of the gate. So to be able to try and sort of put those steps into a tool that's going to help me narrow and help sort of create a path, if you will, to actually making this be a thing, right? So that really is where we started. We started with just a list of what am I going to read, right? What am I going to offer? And just that step alone has created some pretty, let's see, what do we say, Emily? Daunting obstacles that had to be overcome. In my district, any piece of text that is introduced to the students has to go through a board approval process. And so LUDIA helped even with that piece. It helped me craft a letter to present to the board that sort of shares the values, the value of these texts that we want to present, who they speak to, how they speak to each other, how they speak to different kids. When we were able to sort of craft this list with a whole spectrum of abilities, you know, because we all know that even though we say seventh grade, they're not all reading at seventh grade. So this helped with all of that. I also found that, I mean, I've been doing this gig for a while, right? So I kind of know how to put together a lesson, and yet all the pieces, all the steps, all of the parts to make it happen. Being given sort of a checklist, right, is sort of profoundly helpful with that. So just starting with just the obstacles of acquiring books, how we're going to get them, how we're going to get them through our board, how we're going to get them in the room, how to apply for grants, language to put in the grant applications, all of those things have been hugely valuable, you know, using the product.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And I will say the piece about LUDIA that I think is so exciting is you have a teacher like Lisa who knows exactly what she wants, but she also knows that creating that from scratch is going to take a lot of time and energy. It's not that she can't, it's that is hours and hours. Lisa, you and I want to say this entire document, every piece of this, if we put it together over the times we've met and talked and added things, maybe an hour and a half, maybe an hour. What do you think? Of like actually creating this? I think so too. Because, and so I think it's particularly helpful if you have, I mean, it's helpful for a lot of reasons and you'll hear a lot of those, but in this particular instance, I think this really opened a door to allow you to do something that you wanted to do for a long time, but it was also like, oh my gosh, how do I even start?
Yeah. And Emily, I think the curation piece too, I think we found really powerful, like looking down the list of end of book project choices, for example, right? Again, you know, my toolbox with end of book activities is pretty big, right? I mean, when you've been doing it a long time, oh yeah, you know, I remember doing that activity a few years ago. Oh, I guess I could do, right? The thing that has been super powerful about this is that it kind of curates right out of the gate, right? So those 40 end of book choice activities that have floated around in my head and littered my Google Drive for quite some time have been narrowed down to a point where I can say, yeah, I did that one already. That one's not going to happen, but oh, I'd forgotten about this one. I want to use that. That curation piece, I think for me has been very, very powerful. I think the other thing that I found super powerful was the day-to-day implementation. How do I fit this into all of the things that I need to do? I found that really helpful as well. I could tell it, okay, I kind of need to know what to do every day, or I kind of need to know, okay, how am I going to actually make this happen on the daily? Or do I need to do it every day? Maybe it's a weekly thing. LUDIA was able to say, try this on the daily. Here's a thing that you can do. Here's an activity you can put into kids' hands. here's a way to talk about it if you don't want to put something in a kid's hands.
Yeah,
Those options I think are really powerful.
love it. Fantastic. I want to go through and just kind of highlight a couple of pieces here. So again, it absolutely generated a list of book ideas. I do see the question in the chat. I promise I will get to that in just 1 minute. I'm going to go through all of this and I will come back to that question, Julia. It's a great question. So this, I mean, we did enter this goal, right? We were specific with LUDIA. We are doing these book clubs in order to help students create a connection with the protagonist. We want to have a variety of backgrounds. We want to have a variety of experiences. We want to look from a lens of a lot of perspectives here. I will say this book list is so fantastic, and I'm starting the process of going through reading them. And I highly recommend, like, there's just some great, I think you're right, young adult literature is just exploding right now. Lisa really wanted to have sort of a lesson where we're like, let's talk about the expectations of what book club is and what it looks like. She wanted to create a way that they are, reflecting on their experience in book club and having some sort of like a check-in without also feeling like it needs to be something that she's constantly assessing their learning, but more that they can kind of reflect on it.
Well, and we all know, sorry, Emily.
No, please.
We all know that book logs kill the joy of reading, right? I mean, teachers teaching books are really good at killing joy. Honestly, we're super good at it. We give them too much stuff. We do too much stuff. We ask too many things. And so the reality of the way adults read books and enjoy them is they read a book and then I go to Emily and say, oh my God, did you read this book? It was so cool. I found this thing, right? So to try and capture that, I think that was part of the challenge, right? That Emily and I, that we talked about as we sort of started developing this. How do we keep kids accountable, keep them moving forward, and also not kill it for them, right? Allow them just to sit back and read and talk and enjoy it.
We knew we were going to need some supports as far as language support for our English language learners, but also that social emotional connection piece that 7th graders may or may not have, right? And so LUDIA helped us create a list of sentence frames that students can use during their book club time, a connection journal sentence frame support, and the end of book project choice board, and then also a rubric that goes along with that as well, so that she can assess all of these choices with one rubric, and that's really by focusing on that specific learning goal.
The UDL piece too, Emily, I think that was super helpful were those sentence frames, right? I didn't think of that. I mean, I thought about we need to have kids be able to talk about it, but that was a piece that LUDIA specifically helped with. So I can teach them how to talk about it. I found that helpful.
I love that. Some weekly reflection assignments and delivery options. This one, I would say LUDIA gave us the idea for this. We said we want this to be something that students are engaged and excited with. We want there to be options, but we also want there to be some variability week to week. And so LUDIA had this great idea of what if you have a theme every week, but then there's 2 options for that theme, and we loved that. This is a weekly collaboration rubric, one for teacher, and then also a self-reflection for students, and something that's not punitive, but mostly like, okay, this is a thing that went really well. What do I want to work on myself in order to build my engagement and connection during these conversations in book club? And then this right here is, as Lisa mentioned, her district requires board approval. And so this is a letter that LUDIA created. We just put in the names of the books. We put in our learning goal. And we said, this is what we want to do. Can you help us create a letter to the board? It's a beautiful letter. It gives a pretty great explanation of each book. And then it also goes on to talk about why these books would be really helpful in a 7th grade English class. Yeah, so I think it's fantastic. Lisa, I know you are on a crunch time here. Anything else for you before your bell rings?
No, I just want to, I guess, part of the power of working with open access and specifically with LUDIA has been being able to sort of marshal my thoughts, right? To narrow down this big idea into this list of doable action items. And I think that that's what open access in general and LUDIA in specific does really, really well.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate you being here, Lisa. If anyone has questions for Lisa, I promise I will pass them on to her or do my best to answer them on my own. Thank you very, very much, Miss Lisa. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Emily.
Thank you, Lisa.
And to answer, I'm sorry, it's like, I wish we had more time than an hour. This is just people, I appreciate all of these questions here. There was a question about how easy it was to add the prompt into LUDIA. And I would say it is very simple. The more specific, the better. I mean, we specifically are like, I'm a 7th grade English teacher. I am working on, this is my problem of practice. I am trying to build engagement through connecting to identity, through nurturing joy, all of this stuff. And I want to create book clubs. Can you help me with, and each specific thing? And I very much, we both were very much like, okay, this is not what we're looking for. Can you take it and do this? So there is a good amount of feedback back and forth in order to kind of get what you want. But like I said, I mean, overall, all of that was created about an hour. So I mean, it goes quickly as far as long as you're responding and interacting.
Yeah, even with the prompting and re-prompting.
Yeah.
It was fast.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate you. All right, so we are gonna head back to Beth and Jeremy to just hear a little bit more about how to actually make this happen with LUDIA. I'm sorry I took a little bit too much of your time, guys. I went over a little bit.
We were so excited, like everyone here, to hear more from Lisa and to know that LUDIA is helping educators achieve the goal that we always had in our mind, which is to augment and amplify the expertise of educators. So there are many, many AI tools out there, and we know that they serve many purposes. We wanted LUDIA to serve as a bridge for the Universal Design for Learning framework and the practice of all educators in their classrooms and learning places, and to help them really realize the power of UDL and make sure that the work that they're doing is really taken to the next level, because we know that teaching and being a leader in schools these days takes a lot of energy, and AI can really help you make things happen. So that was our dream. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what LUDIA is and what it isn't. And please feel free to share any of your questions or comments in the chat. So as Emily mentioned, I'm Beth. I'm joining you from Germany, where I've lived actually since 2007. And I teamed up with Jeremy, and he's actually located in Panama right now. But when we first connected about this project, he was actually in Japan. And he is a really strong writer, very enthusiastic about the power of AI. And our vision was always to create some way of leveraging artificial intelligence to make universal design for learning much more user-friendly. The temptation with UDL, of course, is to reduce and simplify it, right? To create a UDL light approach, which we know in the long run is actually not serving our learners well. So as we worked together, we developed a plan to engineer LUDIA as a chatbot that will draw from all of the rich evidence-based practices that are connected to each particular guideline and consideration, and then combine that with your specific challenge or context, whatever you are trying to design for in your classrooms or learning spaces. And through a lot of trial and error, we are proud to say that LUDIA at this stage is, it's serving thousands of instructional leaders in over 115 countries. and we will always keep LUDIA free. We believe in the power of open access. We're so honored to be part of open access because we do believe that excellent pedagogical practice and inclusive pedagogical practice can never be exclusive. And so we maintain LUDIA on the PO platform for several reasons. And one is that it allows LUDIA to stay accessible for everyone, and that's our goal. So let's talk a little bit about LUDIA. We're going to go to the, oh, actually, I'm so fortunate. I could switch to the next slide, but it's not working. Would you be kind enough, Emily? Thank you. So as I mentioned, LUDIA is engineered to support and to amplify the expertise of any user, particularly, of course, educators and people who are designing learning. It's going to guide you in thinking about how to identify barriers and clarify your goals. And those might be the goals for the learners in your care, and it could also be your goals as a professional. We know that there's a lot of beauty to be had in that one-page graphic organizer with all those principles and guidelines and considerations all together. We also know that it can be a trigger for cognitive overload when you're sitting at your kitchen table on Sunday night and trying to figure out how to plan out, the week's learning and the lessons. And so LUDIA is there to be a thought partner so that you can, reduce that daunting load on your shoulders as a designer and have a thought partner to help you to prioritize which particular barriers you should be focused on and how to leverage the UDL guidelines and all of that promising evidence-based practice that would be most applicable to your situation. And the other, I would say, perk or something we really appreciate about LUDIA in the design is that LUDIA is going to always invite you back, meaning that, once you have that conversation, or some people would prefer to call it an exchange, because of course, LUDIA is not a person. So once you have that exchange going with LUDIA, it will be then kept in your history. And at the end of a back and forth, LUDIA is going to say, give it a try, and then come back and let me know how it worked. And if you need more guidance or support or ideas, great, let's continue. And I think that, that really speaks to our goal of providing ongoing contextually specific guidance, which then honestly translates into this slow drip professional learning experience about the power of UDL. So some basic info, which is on the next slide. There we go. I was almost a slide switcher, but not quite. Just so everyone understands the way in which LUDIA works. It understands and responds in multiple languages. This depends on whether or not you're using the browser or the app. And there is a free PO app that you can easily download on any device. And if you're using a language in your browser that is different than English, it may switch for you. You can also prompt LUDIA to interact with you in a different language, or you can also ask LUDIA to create several different iterations of a rubric or a worksheet in other languages for you. It's accessible via touch or voice typing, and recently PO has made a connection with 11 Labs, so you can also now use speech to text to enter your information into the PO platform and connect with LUDIA. All right, super. And just a gentle reminder that we aren't selling anything. We receive no money or endorsements or any kind of advertisement or even access to your information. Our dream and our goal was always to make UDL universally accessible And we are two educators who were trying to make a difference in the world of education, and we're excited to be able to share LUDIA with the world. So it will always be free. Thank you, Emily.
So let me go ahead and share my screen. I think whoever is sharing their screen right now, thank you very much. So you should be able to see that split screen with LUDIA on the left and ChatGPT on the right. And so this is just to demonstrate the difference. Now I make it clear, obviously, OpenAI and ChatGPT, their main model, are very powerful tools, right? We're not saying that they are not good tools. They don't have the specificity for the purpose of LUDIA. So I want to show you the difference in output. If I use the same prompt for LUDIA and for ChatGPT, it will also give an element of answer to the question about how easy is it to prompt LUDIA. You'll see that it's very easy, it's very intuitive. That's sort of one of the goals of generative AI is to make the machine able to quote unquote understand human language. So the whole point is for users to be able to use just natural language, right? And I think that's in line with how you did approach. The whole point of LUDIA is lowering the barrier to UDL, and that includes the user being able to focus on their thinking, and the mode of expression of how they structure their prompt doesn't make that much difference. So here's a prompt, and it's not a very good one. It's just one that is a realistic one that a user might want to run by LUDIA. So I am a mathematics teacher, and one of my students in grade 9 routinely screams across the room during instruction because they want to interact with a friend. That's disruptive. They are not responsive to my redirections. I am not aware of any learning differences, special needs, or diagnosis. It's a very important unit on trigonometry. And obviously that has a negative impact on themselves and on my teaching. So I'm going to run that prompt on LUDIA, and then on ChatGPT, I'm going to use 4.5 to be fair. That's the newest and most powerful model. I'm also going to make this a temporary chat in case you don't know that function that makes the exchange anonymous. So the data is not stored in your history, it's not used for training purposes, and it's deleted by OpenAI after 30 days. So I want to point out a couple differences here. The first one is obviously ChatGPT, because it doesn't have the long and complex prompt that Beth and I wrote. It is not going to take a UDL approach, obviously. So the first thing that you will see here, and that will always be the case, is the fact that LUDIA starts with the preamble, with the framing, which is making sure we understand that whatever issue we're having is not an issue with the student. There's nothing wrong with the student, right? There might be a barrier to learning, a barrier to behavior management. That means the learning environment is not designed in a way where they can access or meet our expectations, but that is not an issue with the kid themselves. So we don't have that preamble, obviously, with ChatGPT. The second difference is you can see the output of LUDIA is fairly short or concise. The one of ChatGPT, I didn't check ahead of time, but as you might expect, is much longer. So LUDIA is going to be very focused. As you can see, it has focused on 3 guidelines, and for each, it will give me a consideration, an example. Those are aligned with the new 3.0 guidelines, which is very convenient. The final difference that I want to point out here is, and that may be the most important, the suggestions, which again is what matters really, right? The quality of the suggestions. You can see that the ones that what LUDIA suggests is tweaking a number of things, such as how I design the learning, so to leverage the students' motivation. Some of their skills, whether it's social emotional skills or executive functioning skills. So it's a very strength-based approach, and that is seeing the issue as a learning problem, and my response is as an educator. If I look at ChatGPT, what it's going to suggest is ways to simply manage the behavior, right? It might be in a restorative way, even in a sort of PBIS way, but it's still about immediate intervention, consequences, then changing the seating arrangements, posing reinforcement. So it's a very sort of discipline focused, looking at the behavior, not looking at how the way we have designed the learning itself might lead to the student not being able to meet our behavioral expectations for them. So if we can go back to the slides.
Oh, here we go. Sorry about that.
Thank you very much. So this is a sort of a summary again. LUDIA is very much goal-directed and intentionally focused on obviously UDL and learning. It is going to give me sort of 3 options by those 3 pathways. And then invite you to continue. So I actually did not show you that, but I'm sure you know if you used LUDIA before. What it does is once you have the output, the answer, you will have clickable answers, and you can simply either do yourself the follow-up or click on one of those proposed ways to continue the conversation. ChatGPT is going to be much more general, right? So that's not as focused on UDL and having that learning approach. It is going to give me the laundry list of strategies. And usually it will be one and done. It will tell me, okay, here's what you get to do, or here's what you have to. Here's the way to manage the behavior, and thank you very much. Well, LUDIA invites for a back and forth and a continued conversation. And so the last thing is how we use LUDIA. So we came up with Beth with what we call the 4Ts, which is a very simple model, but we found it to be very useful. So I think that's on the next slide. You have the 4Ts, which are tell, tinker, tweak, and transfer, right? And that gives sort of the steps that you can go through as you engage with LUDIA. So tell would be that first step when you have your initial prompt and you just share with LUDIA, just tell LUDIA what the point of practice, what the learning barrier, etc. might be. Tinker would be that exchange, that back and forth that I have with LUDIA. Because it's a third partner, it's not going to be one and done. I might select one of the suggested follow-ups. I might have my own questions. So I'm going to have an exchange with LUDIA, and that might go through a number of exchanges, whether it's 3, whether it's 10, but we are going to go back and forth. When I finally have sort of what I was looking for, hopefully, and as Emily said and Lisa said, it might be that at first, the first output of LUDIA that's not exactly what I wanted, so I might have to redirect LUDIA. Once I'm happy with the outcome, I still need to tweak it. I need to tweak it because it needs to be adapted to my specific context, to an individual student or to a particular lesson, a particular day, right? So even the output itself needs to be tweaked for particular application or use. And the last one is transfer. And transfer would be hopefully, if I found the practice to be useful, sharing that practice with colleagues, so transferring that from one classroom to the next. It might be also that interacting with LUDIA, I learned something, a new strategy, or I now envision things a bit differently. So I can transfer that not only to colleagues in other classrooms, but sort of to myself and some of my other classes, or maybe next year, or my sort of ongoing continuous development throughout my career.
Beth, do you mind if I say one quick thing before you start?
Yes, yeah. Go for it.
I noticed there's all kinds of conversation in the chat, and I just kind of want to highlight a few things. There's some questions about, if I'm in the UK, will it answer my questions in the same way? And I don't fully know the answer to that, but I will say, if I say, I am a teacher in California, my students are studying this Common Core standard, it will help me take that Common Core standard and divide it into student-friendly lesson goals and help me divide up, like, okay, this Common Core standard seems large. How can I divide this up over the course of 1 week, 2 weeks, etc.? My guess is that and Beth and Jeremy, please share. My guess is if you say where you are from, you might be able to ask for, and I don't know what the equivalent in the UK is as far as educational standards, but if you were to ask for that specifically, I have a feeling that it would be able to take that and do the same information. And because it does translate, I'm wondering if it would use different language with you. I know you mentioned like, oh, we don't have grades. I'm wondering if it would use different language if you say, I'm here, this is where I'm located, this is what I teach. Beth, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think you answered that question brilliantly, Emily, which is LUDIA is really in many ways limited in the sense that it does one thing so that it can do that one thing well. And it's really there to give you responses that are going to be informed by all the UDL framework and all of those promising evidence-based practices and all of what the research tells us that are then going to be connected to your context and your dilemma or your hope or your question or your need, wherever you are in the world. So go
So
for it.
one thing that we've said several times already, but is very, very important is, again, the way you write the prompt, the way you structure the prompt does not make that much of a difference.
Yes.
How much detailed information and specific information you give will make all the difference in the world. So it does not matter if you have headings, hashtags, if you try to craft it in a particular way, that's not going to make a difference. If you give unique background of your students, cultural background, different specific needs they might have, the very specific learning objectives of your unit, etc., that is going to make a major difference. And the way the model that we use is trained, it should know the main curricular frameworks in the Western world, for lack of a better term, it will be very familiar with. So you'll be very familiar with Common Core, with Aero, with NGSS, with the French curriculum, with the British curriculum, etc.
Yeah, and that's been my experience using LUDIA in international schools all over the world, just echoing what Jeremy just said. We engineered it so that you didn't have to be an expert at prompting. And so the prompting was our work. All you need to do is just follow the guidance that Jeremy just referred to and really be as specific as possible about who you are, who your learners are, and how LUDIA can help you. Yeah. All right. Super. Well, our time together is actually coming to a close soon. And so we want to make sure that everyone here has an opportunity to connect with a new platform, a new hub. And we are so excited and honored that this is also going to be linked to the open access website, the UDL resources. And of course, you can see that on our home base document as well. So today we are publishing the LUDIA Live Binder, and we are so proud to be partnered with Live Binders, which is a wonderful company that allows for simplicity and clarity in how we're able to access resources in ways that are also screen reader friendly, and definitely a company that everyone should look into when it comes to making sure that information can be accessible to everyone. I also want to tell you that we got no money for saying that. There was no discount or anything. It's just that Tina Schneider, the owner of Live Binders, is here with us, and she's been such a wonderful support in helping us to optimize LUDIA's Live Binder. So thank you so much, Tina. Shout out to you. And a big shout out to Fred Cochran, who's also here, who has an amazing UDL toolkit live binder, which is also linked in the LUDIA live binder. So thank you so much to both of you for your support. So we want to make sure that everyone leaves here hopefully engaged and curious about how they can leverage LUDIA and also to play with LUDIA. There's one feature we have not discussed, and that is the ability to attach documents to LUDIA. And so if you're interested in trying this out, a really great way to do that would be to download a lesson plan or a unit planner and just start by asking a very simple question, which is, how can I reduce barriers in this ... And what LUDIA is going to do, it's going to quickly analyze that, identify the prioritized guidelines and considerations, and then give you suggestions and ideas for you to tinker and tweak with, or to ask further questions about, so that you can start considering actions that you can take to really support all learners. So the LUDIA Live Binder is, again, free. It's not going anywhere. And what we're hoping is that people can realize that, of course, AI is a wonderful opportunity for all of us in the world of education, but it's never going to replace us. And so when we find ways to leverage tools by creating them ourselves as educators and really finding ways to amplify exemplary pedagogical practice and our wisdom and knowledge, that's when the barriers are really going to start, being removed. So we hope that you can take this live binder back to your learning communities and hopefully spread the word. And we want to also highlight one special resource that's inside of the live binder, which was a really fun way for anyone who's interested in impactful practice to also connect with LUDIA. And this is just a quick choice board. I shouldn't say quick. We took some time creating it, but quick in the sense that all you have to do is scan the QR codes to start a conversation with LUDIA. And what you'll see when you do that is that LUDIA is actually going to combine all of these promising practices that you see that, of course, John Hattie and his team of researchers have found through their meta-analysis of data about what it really takes to be impactful to learning in the classroom. And it's going to connect those practices with potential ways to reduce barriers to make it a much more inclusive approach. So we're kind of taking the best of two really important pieces of our practice and combining them. So we hope that, do you have your hand up, Jeremy? Go for it. Yes.
I wanted to add one thing. Is another thing that we've mentioned a lot today is it's one of the new considerations, right? Joy and play. And one of the reasons why we chose the name LUDIA is obviously it's UDL and AI combined. It's also because LUDIA is based on the Latin word for joy, right? So if you are in a capacity where you train others, whether you are a school admin and a coach, whatever it might be, what I found to be obviously an effective way to sort of roll out LUDIA is to present it just like that. It's not a toy because what we're doing is important, but it's to play around with it. And what I've seen as a sort of a side effect or an aspect of UDL is because the purpose is so important, right? It's access to learning for all students. So because it's so important, and because we care so much, we tend to give it a lot of gravitas. So it becomes very serious. And that means that it can become daunting. Well, those are all the things I have to do. I have all the stories that I need to, or I'm going to not be equitable, right? Where with LUDIA, it becomes a conversation, and the conversation changes from here's everything that I have to do and it's daunting to here's all the things that I can try. Here's all the things that I play around with and see what works, right? So in a way, it makes things easier. It reduces the workload. It also sort of lightens the mood, where it becomes let's play around with it, see what we can try. And hopefully that makes the professional learning, but also the implementation of UDL itself more playful and enjoyable.
Thank you for adding that, Jeremy. And we are very intentional in our design of any resources or supporting information. And we really try to keep it light and try to really engage with any user in a joyful way as well. Because as Jeremy pointed out, you know, the teaching and learning landscape now in 2025, it's really complex, and the word daunting is really what people are living on the daily. So finding a tool that will not just increase your efficiency, but will really help you to reconnect with the joy of and discovery of new and promising ways to amplify, all of those great intentions and bring them to life. Just like Lisa was so kind in sharing at the beginning of the webinar, that's the goal. It's very simple, and that was always our hope. Now we've found over time, and I'll be truthful with you, that LUDIA can do even more. And we really encourage people to attach those documents and take a closer look. And there is a really special resource in the LUDIA Live Binder under LUDIA Tools for You. And that is a book creator book called LUDIA Understands Your Attachment. And it's a collection of over 20 prompts that you can just, have fun and skim through. But what you're going to see are questions that you can ask after you've attached a lesson plan or you've attached a unit planner that are really going to amplify learner agency. And so we encourage everyone to, again, just explore the Live Binder and dig deeper over time. All right, we see there's some questions in the chat. Or maybe not.
There's great comments on in the chat, that's for sure. And I appreciate, thank you guys so much for so many fabulous questions and everything. I want to highlight where LUDIA lives on our website. We are so honored and excited to have LUDIA on our website. On our website, if you go to Universal Design for Learning, down to the open access UDL resources, and scroll down, LUDIA is located here. There's information about Beth and Jeremy, of course, and then we have something to read, the new LUDIA Live Binder, yay. This was previously a s'more, and now it's been updated, which is so exciting. There's a little video demonstration about ways that I have used LUDIA before, a checklist that we've created, and then there's a library here to explore as well. I wish we had a little more time for questions, but the good news is we just got to have so many questions and collaboration throughout. So I appreciate all of that so very much. We are happy to answer any questions at all. And yes, Tina, people have asked for recording. We are recording it right now. We will be emailing it to all participants who have signed up for the webinar. And then we also will be posting it on our website as well. And Stephanie says, when is the next webinar? We're just going to have to start talking about that. We don't have a follow-up yet, but maybe we need one. I love it. Thank you, Stephanie. Our optimistic closure question for today is, what is one way you see yourself using LUDIA to help you implement UDL more efficiently? Feel free to answer that in the chat or ask us questions in the chat. Anything that we didn't have the opportunity to answer here and now, we will have a question and answer section on our homepage document, and we'll make sure that we update that and send it out with the recording to all participants. And then also, again, it will be posted on our website. But we really appreciate everybody's participation. And then we also want to do a little shout out. Please follow us on social media. We do update our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X pretty regularly. And then we also have a YouTube channel as well. And a huge thank you for our very first international webinar. California, Germany, Panama. I saw Mexico, the UK, all kinds of fun stuff. Our contact information is located on the home base document and also on our slide deck. So please do feel free to reach out with any questions about anything. An enormous thank you from all three, for Beth, Jeremy, and also Lisa. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Emily, do we want to do a quick video or still shot?
Yes, we would love that. We would love to do a little screenshots for our social media. So I'm going to go back to this front page right here. And if anyone is not interested in being in our picture, go ahead and just turn your camera off, and then we'll take a little screenshot. I'll give everybody a minute. I promise I'll tell you before I do that. Oh, I will leave this here so people actually know what we're doing. All right. If everyone's okay with it, I'm going to take a little screenshot. 1, 2, 3, cheese. Thank you guys so very much. I don't know if that was actually a smiling or not.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure to be here and an honor to be part of Open Access. And thank you everyone for your time and your attention.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us and for
Thank
joining
you.
us today.
Yes. Thank you again to Beth and Jeremy.
Thank
Great
you.
job, Emily. Hosting it all, keeping it all together.